After being rejected by my crush, I cried my heart out. Perhaps I was sobbing too hard, because suddenly Aubrey tried to comfort me. Don't cry. I'll give you my brother as compensation. I was shocked. Was this kind of thing even compensable? I thought Aubrey was just joking, but as soon as I got back to my dorm, he sent me his brother's WhatsApp contact. I clicked on the profile picture and had a look. He was indeed Aubrey's brother, looking at least 70% similar. But his eyes seemed a bit cocky, lacking Aubrey's gentle and pure gaze. While I was hesitating whether to add him or not, Aubrey messaged me again. I've already talked to my brother. Tomorrow's a holiday, so you two can meet at the Sunday roast restaurant near the east gate of our university. Let's not. Tomorrow I just want to be alone. After all, I was nursing a broken heart. How could I seamlessly transition to someone new? Even though I had only had a crush on Aubrey for half a year, I had invested genuine emotions during that time. Just meet him, no strings attached. I was about to type I don't. When Aubrey's message came through again. If you don't like him, just treat him as my substitute. We look quite alike anyway. I silently deleted the 2 words I had typed and replaced them with, are you two biological brothers? If we weren't, I wouldn't introduce him to you. Do you think I'm that unreliable? Yes, you are. He could say such shameless things so confidently. It's settled then. Tomorrow at 11 a.m. at the Sunday roast restaurant near the university. Don't stand each other up. I never agreed to this, did I? The next day. I woke up early and sent a message to my crush. Aubrey, I've been thinking all night, and I believe you're right. We should focus our energy on our studies now, so let's forget about finding a stand-in. The message went out, sinking like a stone. Finally, at 11:30, Aubrey sent me a voice message. Meredith, what's going on? My brother has already ordered the food, and we're just waiting for you. I hadn't even gone, so why were they waiting for me? I suddenly didn't know how to respond. You should hurry up and go. Don't keep him waiting too long. Aubrey, didn't you see the WhatsApp message I sent you this morning? My voice grew urgent. I saw it, but my brother has been waiting outside the restaurant since 6:30 this morning. With his volatile temper, if I tell him you've stood him up, he might come to our university and beat me up. Is this really his brother? I highly doubt it. Meredith, please, I'm begging you. My brother is a military academy student, quick and agile. Even though I'm 2 years older, he's always chased me around to hit me since we were kids. Aubrey's voice seemed to choke up, sounding terribly afraid. If you don't like him, just tell him face to face. Perhaps fearing that the image he'd painted of his brother might scare me, he quickly added, he never hits women. Well, all right then. I hesitated for a moment, thinking it might be okay to explain things in person. When I arrived at the Sunday roast restaurant, I gave the staff Crispin's name. The waiter then led me to a private room. The room was spacious, able to accommodate 10 people. As soon as I pushed open the door, I was stunned. 7 young men in uniforms stood up and saluted me in unison. Hello, sister-in-law. My face turned crimson, and my breathing quickened with anger. In all my life, I had never encountered such a situation. I immediately turned to leave. As I turned, I bumped into a solid chest. I rubbed my sore nose and looked up, meeting a cool, handsome face. His features and face shape were very similar to Aubrey's, but the aura he exuded was entirely different. Especially those rebellious eyes, as if they could devour a person at any moment, making one want to flee instinctively. Meredith? Crispin called my name, blocking the door with his hand. Where are you going? Home, I said. At this moment, many voices of protest came from behind. They took turns speaking, ostensibly persuading me, but in reality, they were finding ways to embarrass me. I was so ashamed that my eyes turned red. Crispin stared coldly at them. Those men finally shut their mouths. I also felt a bit relieved. Seeing this, Crispin curled his lips into a smile and asked, "Don't like crowds?" I nodded. Who would bring so many people to a first meeting? Could it be that he was also reluctantly meeting me out of respect for his brother? So he brought so many people to intimidate me and make me back off? I was just thinking about whether I should tell him clearly that I wasn't here voluntarily either. However, Crispin looked at the group behind me and said coldly, "Are you all deaf? My girlfriend says she doesn't like crowds. Are we that close? Isn't this our first meeting? How did I become your girlfriend?" I was both shocked and annoyed. The previously spirited young men walked past me dejectedly. "Goodbye, sister-in-law." What a mess, I wanted to cry. They're my mates, they meant no harm. "Don't mind them," Crispin explained, noticing my distress. I nodded, but inside I really wanted to curse. No wonder my crush wanted to pawn his brother off to me. It was clearly a clearance sale. There really is no such thing as a free lunch in this world. "Don't just stand there, come in and have some Sunday roast." Crispin closed the door of the private room and gestured for me to sit at the table, seeing that I wasn't speaking. "I'm not hungry." I hadn't forgotten my purpose for coming here. Now that it was just the two of us, it was a good opportunity to clarify things. I did like his brother, but apart from looking somewhat similar to his brother, his personality and demeanor were too different. He didn't even qualify as a substitute. "Then keep me company while I eat," he said, pulling me towards the table. I tried to resist, but his grip was strong, and I couldn't break free. "I didn't eat this morning," he said while pulling out a chair for me. After a moment's hesitation, I sat down. Seeing me pick up my chopsticks, Crispin's eyes lit up for a moment. He picked up a slice of roast beef for me. "Eat more, I don't mind if you're thin or plump, I can lift you no matter how much you weigh." Looking at the slice of roast beef in my bowl, I suddenly lost my appetite. This man truly had a talent for killing conversations. I took a deep breath and decided to clarify things with him. I put down my cutlery, looked at him, and said, "I like your brother." I let out a long sigh of relief, finally having said it. My whole body and mind instantly felt lighter. Crispin paused for a moment while eating, but quickly resumed. "My brother told me everything. He said he doesn't like you and asked me to be his substitute. Is this how brothers treat each other? So, don't feel any psychological burden, just treat me as a substitute," Crispin said nonchalantly. No, I don't want any substitute," I stammered. "No, you need one." Crispin finished his last bite of meat, put down his cutlery, and asked, "Shall I take you back to uni?" "No need." "Then let's go for a walk." Crispin stood up, took out his phone, and sent a voice message to his mates, telling them to come back and finish the remaining food. I was shocked again. "We need to clean our plates," Crispin explained. I don't know which part of my brain malfunctioned, but I inexplicably followed him out. "Want to watch a film?" After walking for a short distance, Crispin suddenly pointed at the cinema across the street. "No," I said. "Then I'll buy you some flowers." "That's not necessary. Can't this person understand rejection? Or is my attitude of resistance not obvious enough?" I really want to cry. "It's okay, I'll pay." Crispin glanced at me and said very assertively. I was too tired to speak. "Is this about who's paying? Be a good girl and wait here for me." Crispin left these words and strode towards the flower shop not far away. Watching his green figure gradually disappear from my sight, I let out a long breath and turned to run. Fortunately, the university was nearby. Although this behavior was impolite, it was better than staying and continuing this awkward date. I had barely sat down in my dorm room when my phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. I hesitated but still answered. "Come down, I'm outside your dorm building," it was Crispin's voice. I peeked out the window secretly, and sure enough, there was a green figure standing there. What do you want?" I asked nervously. "To give you flowers," he said, his voice crisp. "I really don't need any substitute, let's not meet again in the future." "Understood." He paused for a moment, then probed, "How about I bring the flowers up to you? I'll come get them myself." Thinking of his mates, I was really afraid he might say something to the dorm manager. He was already handsome, and dressed all in green. Just standing there had already attracted a lot of attention. If I didn't get rid of him soon, I might become famous. I went downstairs dejectedly. Crispin called out to me loudly. I looked up. Crispin's face, so similar to my crush's, was both cool and cold. Without waiting for my reaction, he strode up to me and shoved a potted cactus into my hands. "This is the flower he's giving me? Don't let it die," he coldly instructed. Oh, looking at the cactus in my hands, for some reason, I felt a tiny bit disappointed. "And here are 2 cinema tickets, find a friend to go with you," Crispin said, pulling out 2 slightly crumpled tickets from his pocket and handing them to me. I glanced at the time. It was the holidays, my roommates had either left campus or gone on dates. Only I, a single dog, was stuck at uni. "If you can't find a friend, I can be a substitute," Crispin started to recommend himself when he saw I didn't take the tickets. Huh? Not that kind of substitute. Crispin's cool face suddenly turned a bit red. "I mean a substitute to watch the film with you." "That's still not necessary." "Wouldn't that be a waste then?" Crispin frowned, not quite agreeing. "Does your university not allow students to waste things?" "I heard that military academies are indeed strict." "Right, waste is shameful. Military academy students really are different." Crispin was right. Cinema tickets are quite expensive these days, it would be a shame not to go. I dropped off the cactus at my dormitory, then went to the cinema with him. After the film, Crispin walked me to the university gates. Suddenly, he asked, "What do you like about my brother?" I was taken aback for a moment. "I just think he's quite clean-cut and gentle." "I see," Crispin waved his hand. "You should go in now." I kept my head down and jogged into the campus. Back in my dorm room, I sat by the window, still shaken by the events. My gaze wandered to the succulent plant on the windowsill, and I found myself lost in thought. To be honest, I hadn't told the whole truth earlier at the university gates. I fancied Aubrey Fairclough, not just for his good looks and gentle nature, but because he had once saved my life. 3 years ago, I was in a car accident. My blood pressure spiked, causing me to temporarily lose my sight for a few minutes. A young man took me to the hospital. As my vision slowly returned, I could only make out a vague silhouette. Through the haze, I heard him frantically calling for a doctor. After the doctor performed some initial checks, a nurse wheeled me away for more thorough examinations. As I was leaving, I heard someone call out, "Aubrey, where is she? They've taken her for tests." The doctor said her right arm might have a fracture. So, his name was Aubrey. His voice was so gentle and soothing. Afterwards, my father tried to find the young man named Aubrey, but to no avail. 3 years later, just as I was about to forget this incident, I heard that name again in the university library. Aubrey's uniquely gentle voice instantly transported me back to that summer day. At first, I just wanted to keep an eye on my benefactor, but before I knew it, I found myself drawn to this hardworking and exceptional senior student. Plus, with all 3 of my roommates in relationships, I started feeling a bit anxious. In a moment of impulsiveness, I confessed my feelings. The result? I inexplicably ended up having Sunday roast and watching a film with my benefactor's brother, and received a succulent plant. Now I need to water it from time to time. What a strange twist of fate. May had arrived before I knew it. Since that day when I said goodbye to Crispin Fairclough, he had vanished from my world. My crush hadn't asked about our progress either, probably having learned from Crispin that there was no chance between us. Except for the cactus on the windowsill proving he had indeed existed. I sometimes couldn't help but wonder if that day's events were just my imagination, born from the embarrassment of being rejected. The university gave us a 5-day break for the May Day holiday, and my mom came to pick me up. On the way home, she couldn't help but bring up the incident when I was hospitalized after a car accident years ago. She said that at the time, she felt as if the sky was falling. Fortunately, I was rushed to hospital in time. The fact that I could now be lively and active by her side was thanks to the person who saved me. By the way, didn't you say the person who saved you attends the same university as you? My mom suddenly seemed to remember something and nudged my dad. It's been 3 years. We should buy something nice and go thank them properly. Could I refuse? After all, I didn't want them to know about the embarrassing incident of being rejected. My mom, being the impatient sort, had already bought National Rail tickets for the 3 of us that very day. She insisted on accompanying me back to university to thank my benefactor in person. No matter how I tried to dissuade her, both she and my dad were determined to meet Aubrey Fairclough. Left with no choice, I sent Aubrey a voice message, explaining the whole situation to him. After listening, Aubrey asked in a somewhat hesitant tone, "Would it be all right if I asked my brother to meet your parents instead?" I took a deep breath. "Don't worry, I haven't told my parents that I fancy you. They simply want to thank you for taking me to the hospital before. I never imagined that at a time like this, he'd still be looking for a stand-in." Aubrey was silent for a few seconds, then said, "I still think it's better if my brother goes in my place. I'm concerned about gossip spreading at uni if I meet your parents. My brother's actually a great guy, he just gets nervous easily, and when he's nervous, he tends to ramble." "Meredith, could you give him another chance?" Which chance was he referring to? Right, it's settled then. I'll tell my brother to keep his cool. No, wait, Aubrey. The call was disconnected. I hadn't agreed to anything. How was this settled? Never mind, I'd better tell Mum to call it off. Mom, you should return the tickets. Rushing to meet Aubrey like this could indeed lead to misunderstandings. After all, quite a few students at uni knew about my rejected confession. If they heard any rumors, where would I hide my face? Return what? Your dad and I will just treat it as a holiday, my mum said, unmoved. I pursed my lips. Aubrey's quite busy with his studies lately, it's not very convenient. A sudden ringtone interrupted me. It was my mobile. Aubrey was calling. Had he changed his mind? I quickly answered, and my mum leaned in to look. "Meredith, isn't this the photo of that kind lad you showed us before? He looks even more handsome in person." She must have been excited, as her voice was quite loud. "Hello, Mrs. Gower. I'm Crispin, Meredith's friend." Crispin's smile in the video was both handsome and warm. Not just my mum, even I felt my heart flutter. "Crispin? That name sounds familiar," my mum murmured, then broke into a smile. "Crispin, dear, have you and our Meredith known each other for a while?" "Mom." I interrupted, my face reddening. "Are you going to pack or not?" My mum shot me a displeased look, then turned back to Crispin with a bright smile. "Crispin, dear, your uncle and I were thinking of coming to see you, to thank you in person. You don't mind, do you? What time is your train, Mrs. Gower? I'll come to pick you up." "Oh, that's too much trouble." "It's no trouble at all." Crispin in the video was smiling happily. I stood to the side holding my phone, unable to get a word in. At that moment, I felt like nothing more than a mobile phone stand. My mum finally finished chatting and turned to me. "I'm off to pack. You young people have a nice chat." I took my phone back to my room. As soon as I was in my room, Crispin's smile tightened. "Don't misunderstand, I'm just doing my brother a small favor." "I'm not misunderstanding anything. If he hadn't made this video call, I could have convinced my parents not to come and cause trouble." "That's good then." Crispin looked relieved, which instantly made me feel a lump in my chest. "Where's your brother?" I asked. "Studying." Crispin paused, then said, "My brother says he only likes girls who are good at their studies." "Oh, I'm going to sleep now." If we kept talking, I felt I might have a brain hemorrhage. "It's only 2 o'clock, Crispin reminded me. "Afternoon nap." Crispin nodded in understanding. "Then I'll watch you sleep." It's been a month, and this guy's habit of talking to himself hasn't improved at all, it's actually getting worse. I ended the video call immediately. After ending the video call, Aubrey sent me a text message. "Sleep well, I won't disturb you." Is this man seriously ill or something? If it weren't for the fact that this WhatsApp number belonged to my crush, I would have blocked him long ago. I scrolled through my chat history with my crush and accidentally came across Crispin's contact card. That day I only opened it to look at the profile picture, but didn't add him. Looking back now, that decision seems to have been wise. Just as I was thinking this, a friend request notification popped up. I opened it to see. It was my crush's brother. Reject. "Don't be stubborn, it'll be inconvenient to pick up uncle and aunt tomorrow without WhatsApp," he replied using his brother's account. I hesitated. He added, "It'll be easy to slip up." Actually, it made sense. Fine, I'll add him for now. Worst case, I can block him after dealing with my parents. After adding him on WhatsApp, Crispin sent me several photos in succession. All of them were of himself. Some in military uniform, some in casual clothes, and one in a high school uniform. I stared at the familiar school uniform style and badge, lost in thought for a moment. You also went to University of Bath? I thought my crush wasn't from Bath. I did for year 12, then I transferred schools. Crispin's reply came after a while. Oh. I paused, then asked, which year were you? 2018, you? I was 2017, but then I had a car accident and took a year off. I know. Your brother was the one who took me to the hospital. If he didn't know, he wouldn't be standing in for his brother tomorrow. I'll take good care of Uncle and Aunt tomorrow, Crispin promised solemnly. I panicked a bit and quickly sent a text reminder. Don't bring any of your mates. Understood. He sent me a reassuring emoji that looked somewhat playful. Suddenly, I didn't feel as averse to him as I initially did. At that moment, my mom suddenly pushed open the door. Meredith, something's not right. What's not right? I felt inexplicably nervous, wondering if she had seen through my plan to find a stand-in. Wasn't the person who saved you back then called Aubrey? Your dad even posted missing person notices at the time. How come the young man just now said his name was Crispin? My mom looked at me with a puzzled expression. I was barely conscious then, I must have misheard the name. At this point, there was nothing else I could do but make something up. No wonder your dad searched for so long without finding anyone. So it turns out you misheard the name. My mom had a sudden realization, Aubrey, Crispin, they do sound quite similar. You had hit your head at the time, so it's understandable that you misheard. The next day, Crispin wore a white shirt and gray casual trousers. He looked clean and fresh. When my mom saw him, her eyes nearly popped out of her head. Not bad, young man. You look even more handsome than in the photos, very masculine, she gushed. Crispin smiled politely. Mrs. Gower, shall I drive you to the hotel to rest? He jingled the car keys in his hand as he spoke. So young and already owning a car. My mom's smile widened as she gestured to my dad to quickly hand over the gift. Crispin, we're very grateful for saving our Meredith back then. Here are some local specialties from Bath, please share them with your family. My dad said, pushing a 28-inch suitcase towards Crispin. I strongly suspected they just didn't want to carry it anymore. Is this how he shows gratitude? I glared at him, but my dad pretended not to notice. Thank you, Mr. Gower, Crispin accepted without hesitation. I could clearly sense my parents' simultaneous sigh of relief. The suitcase looks heavy, let me help, I offered, being the conscientious student I am even though he wasn't really my savior. It's not heavy, Crispin lifted it slightly, looking relaxed as he smiled at me. I told you, I can lift any weight. Ah, the strength of youth, my dad gave him a thumbs up. You're in great shape too, Mr. Gower, Crispin replied with a smile. My dad's smile faded. My mom was stunned for a moment, then burst into laughter. Great shape, haha. Crispin stood there, looking puzzled. I couldn't bear it anymore and tugged at his shirt, whispering, my dad's only 45. To hide his embarrassment, Crispin Fairclough picked up the box and started walking. He led us to the underground car park to fetch the car. However, I couldn't help but notice that their attitude towards Crispin seemed a bit off. Sure enough, as soon as my mom got in the car, she began her interrogation, starting from how many people were in his family and escalating to how many cats he owned. Fortunately, Crispin was quite cooperative, answering each question without hesitation. My mom, seemingly satisfied, slapped her thigh and asked, "Do you have a girlfriend?" The air suddenly became thick with tension. I felt too embarrassed to look up. Crispin remained silent for a moment, glancing at me before saying, I did. You've broken up? My mom's enthusiasm waned slightly upon hearing he had an ex-girlfriend. More or less, Crispin sighed. He turned the steering wheel, making a swift turn, and the car immediately drove out of the car park. After settling my parents, Crispin drove me back to the university. On the way, Crispin hardly said a word. He seemed to have something on his mind. I suddenly remembered he had mentioned earlier in the car that his girlfriend had broken up with him. So, was he just using me as a rebound to forget his ex, indulging in self-destructive behavior? Thinking about it this way, his strange actions made sense. It turns out I was just a remedy for him to forget his ex. For some inexplicable reason, I felt a bit uneasy. When we arrived at the dormitory, I turned to say goodbye and started walking towards the entrance. Meredith, he suddenly called out to me. I paused and turned to look at him. He strode towards me, and my heart inexplicably skipped a beat. "Where's the cactus I gave you?" he asked. I was a bit confused. Did he want it back? Did you kill it? His expression darkened. I quickly shook my head. "It's alive. Bring it down so I can see," he said, seemingly not believing me until he saw the plant alive with his own eyes. "Why don't you take it back and look after it yourself?" I was genuinely perplexed. It was odd enough that he gave me a cactus when we first met. Now he wanted to check up on it like it was homework? "No need, it's yours now that I've given it to you," he replied. A few minutes later, I came downstairs carrying a pot of cactus. Crispin Fairclough stared intently at the plant in my hands. "It doesn't look very lively. You should water it a bit later." How could he tell it wasn't lively? I felt indignant. "I've researched it. Cacti shouldn't be watered too often," I protested. After all, I had done my homework to keep this plant alive. I had watered it before I left home. It had only been 2 days, so it certainly wasn't lacking water. Crispin kept looking at me steadily, then suddenly asked, "Want to see a film?" I was startled. How did the topic change so abruptly? Does he even know how to have a conversation? Seeing that I hadn't agreed, he pulled 2 cinema tickets out of his trouser pocket. "It's a war film. I'm in it too. Would you like to go?" he asked after a brief pause. I was a bit curious. Wasn't he a military academy student? How did he end up in a film? Could he be an art student? But with that physique, it didn't seem likely. Though, with those looks, he wouldn't be out of place as a film star. Perhaps this was my closest encounter with a future celebrity. "After the film, we could have a quick dinner with my aunt and uncle," Crispin suggested. Was this a veiled threat? To get this over with quickly, I agreed. "I'll just take the cactus upstairs first," I said. "Bring it along," he said, glancing at it. The film's about to start. How odd would it look to carry a cactus into the cinema? "I'll carry it for you," he offered, seemingly sensing my hesitation. He reached out and took the cactus, cradling it in his hands. The film was exciting, but I couldn't spot Crispin anywhere in it. What on earth did he play in this? I turned to ask him, only to find him fast asleep with his head tilted to one side. Even asleep, he maintained that cool, aloof air. I had to admit, his looks were truly remarkable. With a face like that, if he did go into acting, he'd surely become famous sooner or later. As the film was nearing its end, Crispin finally woke up. He rubbed his eyes and asked, "Have I missed the final explosion scene?" "Not yet," I replied. "Oh, good," he sighed with relief. After waiting for 2 minutes, he leaned close to my ear and whispered, "Did you see that? The person who just fell down was me." In a 2.5-hour film, he had shown only half of his face. Yet he had the audacity to tell me this was his film. I was speechless for a moment, then managed to say, "You did all right." "Everyone in our class participated, but only my scene was kept," Crispin said proudly. His attitude was remarkably positive. Finally, the film ended. Crispin and I hadn't even reached the exit when we heard an enthusiastic voice. "Hello, sister-in-law." Suddenly, the cinema turned into a family reunion. Crispin pulled me close, gently wrapping his arm around me as he slowly guided me out. Everyone was talking at once, and I felt my face burning with embarrassment. How could it be such a coincidence to run into all his peculiar brothers while watching a film? What kind of strange fate was this? And why were all his brothers so eccentric? "Shut up, all of you." Crispin frowned, kicking one of them. He angrily asked, "What did you all promise me this morning before I left?" "We promised not to disturb your time alone with sister-in-law. We promised not to let sister-in-law know we exist." Crispin laughed in exasperation. Now get lost. I watched as everyone saluted me while passing by. Once again, I wished I could disappear on the spot. Don't mind them, they just like you, Crispin reassured me. I could sense they meant no harm, but I found this way of showing affection a bit overwhelming. Moreover, I couldn't understand why such a handsome man would willingly become a stand-in for his brother. Had his ex-girlfriend hurt him that badly? At the thank you dinner, my mom grew increasingly fond of Crispin Fairclough. In her casual conversation, she kept subtly probing for more information about him. With a thoughtful expression, my mum asked, Crispin, dear, you attended secondary school in Manchester, didn't you? How did you end up in Bath, where you saved our Meredith? Bath isn't exactly a tourist hotspot. When I first learned that Aubrey Fairclough was from Manchester, I was a bit surprised too. Crispin glanced at me discreetly before explaining, well, Mrs. Gower, I actually lived in Bath during my childhood. I only moved back to Manchester for sixth form. Technically speaking, Meredith was my senior at school. I see, my mum said, looking at me with a smile. It seems you and our Meredith have quite the connection. I couldn't agree more, Crispin replied, grinning at me. During the meal, my parents inquired further about the day of my accident. I was initially worried he might slip up, but Crispin remained composed, answering every question clearly and coherently. Even my dad couldn't help but praise him as a fine young man. My mom was even more impressed. Before the dinner ended, she pulled me to the ladies' room for a private chat. Meredith, Crispin is quite a catch. I've done some digging, and he's currently single. You should take the initiative, she urged. Mark my words, if you let him slip away, don't blame your mother for not warning you, my mum said, giving me a stern look before leaving the restroom. I followed behind her, feeling rather glum. After dinner, Crispin drove my parents back to their hotel. As we were about to go upstairs, my father pulled me aside and whispered in my ear, your old man has done some asking around. Aubrey is only 6 months younger than you. In a few more months, he'll be of legal age to marry. I couldn't believe it. Were they here to thank our benefactor or to play matchmaker? Did they really need to be in such a rush? On the way back, I found myself growing increasingly irritated with Crispin. I had no idea what kind of spell he had cast on my parents, but a perfectly normal dinner had turned into a matchmaking event. Moreover, my parents' attitude made me feel like I was some desperate spinster. As we reached the gates of the University of Bath, Crispin pulled over. I was about to open the door when he suddenly called out to me. I'm heading back to uni tomorrow, he said. I felt a bit awkward, not knowing what to say. After a moment, I managed, have a safe journey. We've got intensive training coming up, and we're not allowed to bring our phones, he continued. For some reason, my heart skipped a beat. Could you look after this for me? He asked, reaching under the car seat and pulling out a small potted cactus, which he then handed to me. I took it, feeling slightly dazed. He looked at me for a long moment before slowly asking, how did I do today? My brain struggled to catch up. Before I could respond, he asked a second question, could you give me another chance? What kind of chance? I felt my face grow hot. A chance to win your affection, he said softly. I lowered my head, my face burning and my heart racing. Seeing my silence, Crispin sighed and opened the car door for me. The training lasts a month. Will you think about it? All right, I mumbled. I got out of the car and ran off without looking back. It's been nearly a month since the intensive training period began, and with finals approaching, I haven't heard from Crispin. Today, I bumped into Aubrey again at the library. Sitting beside him was a girl with short hair and glasses. The girl was pretty in a subtle way, her head bowed as she focused intently on her book. Aubrey's gaze kept drifting towards her, his eyes full of affection. The girl's name was Rowena, a mathematics prodigy. Crispin had mentioned that his brother fancied clever girls, and it seemed to be true. At that moment, Aubrey looked up and noticed me. I instinctively averted my gaze for a moment. Although 2 months had passed, and my initial feelings for him had faded, I couldn't help feeling a bit awkward. Meredith, come sit with us, Aubrey called out, far more enthusiastic than I felt comfortable with. I hesitated for a second, then realized that since I no longer harbored any unrequited feelings for him, avoiding him might give the wrong impression. So, I confidently took a seat opposite him. Noticing someone new at the table, Rowena finally looked up from her book, her eyes settling on me. "I'm Meredith," I introduced myself promptly. Rowena adjusted her glasses and nodded. "I know who you are." I was taken aback. Was I that well known? Or had Aubrey told her about my confession and rejection? My face flushed with embarrassment. "You're Crispin's girlfriend," Rowena said with a slight smile. My face grew even redder. "That's not true." Seeing my denial, Rowena chuckled. "I saw photos of you two at Aubrey's house." I was dumbfounded, trying to recall when Crispin and I had ever taken photos together. Before my mind could catch up, Aubrey suddenly said, "My brother's been assigned to help with flood relief down south. He didn't tell you because he didn't want you to worry." To be honest, at that moment, I suddenly found myself feeling quite concerned about Crispin. After finishing the last exam, my roommates gradually left the university. The day before I was due to leave, I refreshed Crispin's Facebook page one more time. Still no updates. I hesitated, wondering if I should ask his brother about his situation. Didn't he say last time before he left that I should give him a chance? During this period, my mind was in turmoil, worried about his safety, yet afraid he might suddenly appear and demand an answer from me. Back in the dormitory, I glanced at the cactus on the windowsill. I couldn't help but touch the sand at the bottom of the pot. It felt a bit dry. I needed to water it. Suddenly, Crispin's WhatsApp call came through. I hurriedly answered. "Come down," his voice was bright. I looked out the window. That military green figure was standing outside. I held up the bottle and said to the window, "I'm watering the plant." He seemed to see me too, waving towards the window. "Bring it down so I can see it." "I've missed it." My face reddened, but I hung up and carried the cactus downstairs. "You've lost weight," were his first words upon seeing me. Looking at his sun-darkened face, I couldn't help but retort, "So have you." "Want to try?" he asked, his eyes blazing as he stared at me. "Try what?" I swallowed. "Being lifted up," he said, the corner of his mouth lifting in a tempting smirk. My heart skipped a beat. The tanned Crispin seemed to exude masculine pheromones from every pore, especially those dark eyes, filled with interest in me. Frightened, I took a step back, shaking my head vigorously. But Crispin kept advancing, pushing me back towards the entrance of the stairwell. There are still people at the university." I felt tears of panic welling up. Even though it was the holidays, many students like me hadn't left yet. I won't touch you," he sighed, suddenly touching the cactus in my hands. I said it lost weight. "Why are you reacting so strongly?" I pouted, feeling he suddenly wasn't as sexy anymore. "Don't be angry, I'll take you out for dinner," he said. After dinner, Crispin walked me back to the university. Under the warm glow of the street lamps, he suddenly stopped and looked down at me. My heart skipped a beat. "Have you decided?" he asked, his deep voice tinged with nervousness. I glanced at the cactus in my hand, unsure whether to nod or shake my head. "I'll pick you up tomorrow," Crispin sighed, shoving his hands in his pockets and walking ahead of me. I watched his retreating figure and hurried to catch up. "Go on up," Crispin said when we reached the dormitory building. I didn't move, just looked at him quietly and asked, "Do you still think about your ex-girlfriend?" His pupils constricted slightly, probably not expecting me to ask such a question. He looked at me, his eyes filled with complex emotions. My heart gradually cooled under his wordless gaze. "Meredith, you fool. He only asked if you could like him, but he never said he liked you." I desperately admonished myself, slowly turning away. "Goodbye, Crispin," I said, walking towards the entrance. I had only taken 2 steps when someone hugged me from behind. "Silly girl, I only think about you," his breath brushed against my ear. I suddenly felt like I'd forgotten how to breathe. "Meredith, do I still have a chance?" he asked again. I remained silent. "If you don't say anything, I'll take it as a yes." I continued to keep quiet. Crispin excitedly picked me up and spun me around. Back in my dormitory, I could feel my heart still racing. This must be the second adventure of my life. I placed the cactus back on the windowsill and glanced down at the courtyard below. Crispin was still there. I opened the window and waved at him. He took out his phone and sent me a WhatsApp message. "Send me your train details. I'll see you off tomorrow." I had initially thought that when Crispin said he'd see me off, he just meant to the train station. But he had bought a ticket for the same train as me, intending to accompany me all the way back to Bath. And he'd only managed to get a standing ticket. Was he planning to stand for 12 hours? I suddenly felt a pang of sympathy and wanted to persuade him not to come. "We'll board first, then I'll upgrade the ticket," Crispin said, his gaze intense as he looked at me, making it impossible for me to refuse. Once on the train, we stowed our luggage. Crispin then went to find the conductor to upgrade his ticket. I waited for him in my seat. Half an hour later, he returned. "No seats available. You sit here, I'll stand near the connecting passage for a while," he said before walking towards the area between carriages. I sat in my seat for a bit, but couldn't settle. I got up to find him and discovered he had fallen asleep sitting on the floor, leaning against the carriage wall. I quietly went over and sat down next to him. He was in a deep sleep, undisturbed by the passing crowds or the sound of the train. He must have been exhausted. "Silly boy, if you're tired you should rest, not insist on accompanying me. We've added each other on WhatsApp, we could video chat anytime." I looked at the dark circles under his eyes, and felt a softening in my heart. As the train rumbled on, I found my own eyelids growing heavy. I woke up to find myself half lying on Crispin's lap. He had his eyes half closed, seemingly caught between sleep and wakefulness. My face felt like it was on fire, and I could only pretend to still be asleep. That is, until the urgent ringing of a phone made it impossible to keep up the charade any longer. It was Crispin's mobile. Crispin answered quickly, and though he tried to keep his voice low, I could still hear the tension in it. After he hung up, I had no choice but to open my eyes. "If you have work to do, you should go," I said. "My job is to get you home safely," he smiled, glancing at his phone. "We'll be at the station in about 3 hours. Though after I drop you off, I'll need to go help out a mate," Crispin explained. The train arrived at the station, and my dad came to pick me up by car. Upon seeing Crispin, my dad beamed with delight and insisted on inviting him over for dinner. Crispin declined, saying he had bought a ticket for the same day and had some work to do. Before we parted, he waved his mobile phone at me and said, "I'm supporting my brother, so I can bring my phone." "All right," I replied. On the 7th day after returning home, Theodora Lovelace called to ask if I wanted to attend the class reunion. There had been discussions in the WhatsApp group for days, but I hadn't decided whether to go or not. The group chat was filled with talks about starting businesses or finding jobs. As for me, I've never had grand ambitions. I just wanted to find a stable job after graduation and stay close to my parents. "Meredith, this reunion is important. You must come," Theodora said earnestly. I understood her meaning. After this, we would all gradually enter society, becoming proper adults in name and deed. This might be the last time we could gather like children. "All right, I got it." I told Aubrey about the reunion party. But he hadn't replied to my messages, even on the day of the event. I couldn't help but worry. As a result, I was somewhat distracted during the party. When it ended, I was waiting for a taxi outside. Suddenly, Theodora grabbed my hand and collapsed onto my shoulder, crying uncontrollably. "Meredith, he wants to break up with me." "What should I do?" she sobbed. "Godric?" I asked. "Who else could it be?" Theodora cried even harder. It was then that I belatedly realized Godric hadn't attended this reunion. "He's even skipping our class gatherings to avoid me," Theodora sniffled, her voice choked with emotion. I felt at a loss, unsure how to comfort her. She had been drinking and was emotionally unstable, so I decided to take her back to my place. As we reached the entrance of my apartment complex, I froze. Crispin was standing there, holding a bag of apples and a watermelon. He walked towards us with long strides. "Crispin?" Theodora exclaimed in surprise. Crispin halted, and I noticed a flicker of panic in his eyes. The fact that Theodora Lovelace and Crispin Fairclough knew each other genuinely shocked me. My head was buzzing, as if something was about to break free from its cocoon. Yet, I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Crispin paused for a few seconds, then walked over with his shopping. He casually handed me the bag of apples, then freed one hand to wrap around my shoulder. Theodora stood frozen nearby, unable to utter a word for a long while. I wriggled a bit and said to Crispin, "She's had too much to drink. I need to look after her." I still wasn't comfortable leaving Theodora behind like this. Crispin glanced at Theodora, who was still rooted to the spot, and said, "I'll get one of my mates to take care of her." He then pulled out his phone and started making a call. Theodora, in her dazed state, asked, "Is your mate as handsome as you?" Crispin replied after hanging up, adding thoughtfully, "I've got 7 mates, all sorts." "You're bound to be satisfied. You came to see me, so just see me. Why are 7 of your mates coming along too? What kind of sorts are they anyway?" I suddenly felt terribly guilty towards Theodora, even preparing myself to go and apologize the next day. However, upon hearing about 7 handsome lads, Theodora excitedly asked, "How do they compare to Godric?" "Who's Godric?" Crispin frowned, but still politely asked, "Would you like to see their photos now?" "Yes." So, Crispin found photos in his gallery and showed them to Theodora one by one. After looking at them, Theodora was overjoyed and loudly exclaimed, "Godric can sod off. Today, I'm having the lot." As Crispin closed his phone, I accidentally caught a glimpse of his lock screen. It was a photo of him with a girl. I'm not sure if my eyes were playing tricks on me, but I thought the girl looked very similar to me. Could it be that I'm also a replacement for Crispin's ex-girlfriend? Feeling suspicious, I carried the fruit upstairs. Crispin stayed behind to keep Theodora company while waiting for his mates. Half an hour later, his mates finally arrived. Our group decided to go for a barbecue. Theodora Lovelace, who had been all talk earlier, now shyly hid behind me when faced with 7 handsome lads in person. "Sister-in-law, are there many single girls at your uni?" one of them asked. After calling me sister-in-law for so long, it seems this was what they were after. I shot Crispin a glare. Crispin cleared his throat and glanced at Theodora behind me. "Don't forget your mission today, lads. Make my girlfriend's best friend feel welcome, and you might not be single for long." "Mission accepted," they chorused. I took Theodora's hand and whispered, "If you're uncomfortable, I can ask them to leave. They're quite lovely, actually," Theodora chuckled, visibly relaxing. Seeing Theodora's smile grow, I felt more at ease. After we finished, Crispin dropped me off at my flat before heading back to the hotel with his mates. Back home, I picked up my phone, intending to ask Crispin if he'd reached the hotel. But unexpectedly, I received a WhatsApp message from Theodora. "Meredith, thank you for today. You've made me believe that young love can last. Crispin is wonderful. I hope you two can stay this happy forever. Promise me you'll be happy, Meredith Gower." I stared at Theodora Lovelace's message, unable to calm my racing thoughts. Yet, I still lacked the courage to voice the doubts in my heart. I thought perhaps time would reveal the answers. Crispin Fairclough stayed in Bath for 7 days. During those 7 days, we visited many places. At the same time, I began to notice some peculiarities. It turned out we had both attended the same school growing up. Although we weren't in the same year, with his grades and looks, it seemed impossible that I wouldn't have any recollection of him. "Tell me, did we know each other before?" That day, I could no longer contain my curiosity and asked the question that had been nagging at me. "Yes," Crispin replied. Though surprised by my directness, he didn't deny it. Indeed, we had known each other before. These past few days, my suspicions hadn't been unfounded. No wonder Theodora knew about him. "Was I your ex-girlfriend?" "Yes." After receiving this confirmation, I was at a loss for how to react. Had I stumbled into the plot of a romantic drama? Had I lost my memory after a car accident? And somehow I remembered everyone and everything, except for him. How utterly bizarre. Why didn't you come find me earlier during these 3 years? If he had come to me sooner and explained everything, with his looks, I probably wouldn't have been able to resist for long. I did. Crispin looked at me with a hint of resentment in his eyes. "It seems you don't remember a thing. Am I really that forgetful? Couldn't he just explain it properly?" Why does his gaze make me feel like I'm some kind of heartbreaker? I didn't dare to ask any more questions. After his moment of resentment, he calmed down and stroked my head, saying, "Anyway, you chased after me for 3 years too, so let's call it even." "I chased you first." I was shocked. The most daring thing I'd ever done was confessing to my crush. And after being rejected, I never persisted. With my personality, how could I possibly chase a boy for 3 years? It seemed unbelievable. What else? Crispin chuckled softly. "You little heartbreaker, you won me over and then pretended not to know me." Put that way, it did sound rather awful. "I'm sorry," I lowered my head apologetically. "I forgive you." Crispin ruffled my hair and leaned close to my ear, whispering, "I'm Crispin. Don't forget again." "I promise I won't," I vowed. "Seal it with a kiss." He cupped my face and took the opportunity to plant a kiss on my lips. "Was that the first time?" I asked, blushing. I wanted to know if I still had my first kiss. "The first time you kissed me," Crispin embraced me, and I felt his breathing grow heavy, his shoulder slightly damp with warmth. I didn't move, gently raising my hands to encircle his waist. That night, as I lay in bed, my mind was restless, churning with thoughts that kept me awake until dawn. Try as I might, I couldn't recall a single memory of my time with Crispin. In the early hours, feeling defeated, I sent Crispin a WhatsApp message. "I'm sorry, but I still can't remember anything." Crispin replied instantly, "Don't worry about it. Try to get some sleep." In the 3rd year of my relationship with Crispin, Rowena found out she was pregnant. She and Aubrey decided to get married before the baby arrived. Because of this, Aubrey gave up his plans for further studies and started actively looking for work. After graduation, I returned home and became a primary school teacher. Crispin continued his studies at university. Over these 3 years, although we spent much time apart, our feelings for each other grew stronger. However, I still couldn't remember anything about my time with Crispin before the car accident. This always left me feeling regretful. On Aubrey's wedding day, Crispin couldn't attend due to work commitments. After the ceremony, Aubrey asked if I wanted to see Crispin's room. Naturally, I didn't refuse. That evening, in Crispin's room, I found a photo album. It was filled with pictures of me. One of them showed me nestled in Crispin's arms, holding a selfie stick and smiling freely at the camera, while Crispin held a pot with a green cactus, looking at me lovingly. On the back of that photo was a small note, "The strongest flower, for the strongest you." It was in my handwriting. That cactus was the plant I had been nurturing for 3 years. Apparently, I had originally bought it to celebrate Crispin's acceptance into the Royal Military Academy. Crispin must have given it back to me, hoping I would remember something. Unfortunately, I still couldn't recall anything. A wave of frustration washed over me. Our photos together disappeared after my car accident. The later pictures in the album were just of me alone. Some were printouts of my Facebook posts that he had added to the album. The last one was a blurry shot of me buying medicine at the chemist's, taken through the glass door. I remember that day. It was during my period and I was at an off-campus pharmacy getting painkillers. A kind young man offered me a cup of hot tea and some shortbread, saying his girlfriend didn't want them anymore. At the time I thought it was odd and tried to refuse, but he insisted. I was in too much pain to argue, so I reluctantly accepted. Could that young man have been Crispin? The more I think about it, the more it seems like something he would do, both strange and sweet. When I got home, I went through all my old diaries and photo albums. Finally, in an old maths exercise book, I found Crispin's name. The whole book was filled with his name written over and over in different styles. Looking at all those variations of his name, I couldn't help but cry. Even though I couldn't remember, it was clear I had truly loved him. That night, I posted on Facebook, "Crispin Fairclough, I love you," along with a photo of him. Crispin commented, "I love you too. How wonderful, the lovebirds are together at last." To my surprise, the comment was from my old form tutor. In our 7th year together, Crispin and I finally tied the knot at the register office. On the eve of our wedding, I had a dream. In the dream, the boy I loved most came to me with his university acceptance letter. I ran towards him excitedly, when suddenly a lorry came hurtling towards me. My legs felt like lead, and I couldn't move. I could only watch helplessly as the lorry barreled towards me. Just then, a force knocked me aside. As I fell, I thought I saw a flash of red. Oh no, my beloved boy had died saving me. The dream felt so real that I woke up screaming, drenched in cold sweat. My mom heard the noise and rushed in, hugging me tightly. Had a nightmare? She asked. Mom, is Crispin dead? I asked, terrified. What nonsense are you talking, child? Mom glared at me disapprovingly. You and Crispin are already registered. The wedding's tomorrow, remember? Oh, right. I took a deep breath, gradually calming down. It was just a dream. The wedding was a lively affair, especially with his 7 groomsmen clamoring for me to introduce them to my female teacher friends. Watching their eager expressions, I couldn't help but ask Crispin, after all this time, they're still single? Crispin sighed. I thought to myself, he's lucky he met me, or he might have been single for life too. Thinking about how I chased him for 3 years, I found it quite ridiculous. Did I have some strange hobby back then? I seriously suspected he might be deceiving me. That night, I told Crispin about my dream. He held me close and scolded, "Who curses their husband to die the night before the wedding? Don't worry, I'll definitely go after you." In Crispin's embrace, I suddenly stopped fretting about that forgotten memory. Memories might be incomplete, but love doesn't lie.